Welcome back to Commodity Champions. The demand for silver in 2021 was the highest since 2015, and this is set to rise further this year according to the World Silver Survey 2022 by the Silver Institute itself. The total supply of silver globally is expected to increase by 3%, aided by mine production and a rise in industrial recycling. The report also sees global demand for silver rising by 5% for 2022 due to a recovery in jewelry and silverware. To speak more about the findings of the report and the silver outlook for the rest of this year, I am now joined by Michael Dirienzo. He's Executive Director at the Silver Institute. Michael, hi. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, what is the kind of demand that we're expecting this year? I mean, the last year was really good. At various levels, we saw demand perk up as compared to the previous year. How is this year until now looking to you?
Well, hi, Manisha. It's always good to be with you. We think that even though we have some recession fears, that demand has been quite resilient so far in 2022. On the industrial side, which of course is what everybody looks to, the total is expected to grow by about 6% to achieve an all-time high this year. We think that the industrial applications are benefiting strongly from electrification, including higher electrical vehicles, higher silver-bearing electronics, and devices per car. And also, you can't forget about the fact that these charging stations, which are being installed all throughout the world for these vehicles, is a win-win for silver. And we can't forget about PV, photovoltaics is too. The strong demand from those areas is quite exceptional. Jewelry and silverware, we expect a double-digit growth this year. That'll be led by India. And on terms of investment demand, we think it'll be strong. We don't think it'll be as strong as it was in 2021, but inflationary concerns and geopolitical uncertainty will again pave the way for strong investment demand.
So you're saying that the best of the silver demand really will come in from the industrial applications this year around, Michael?
We do. We think it's going to be strong, even though we see signs of a slower economy across the world, or at least in various regions. Our consultants at Metals Focus feel that the industrial demand will achieve another record year.
All right. Michael, how are you looking at the prices to begin with? Because it has been a slightly disappointing year. We haven't been able to hold above $20 per ounce as much as silver or silver bulls tried.
Yeah, we remain very, very cautious about the silver prices here with respect to giving forecasts. Even though inflation has shown some signs of peaking, it has remained elevated and is still significantly higher than the Fed's 2% long-term target. So with that in mind, we're looking at about a bandwidth of about 2160 to 2210 for 2022.
All right. Michael, also, when you talk about India and the kind of demand that we're seeing here really seems to be picking up. I mean, industry has been telling me that 500 to 700 tons per month of silver import is what India is looking at right now. When you look at India and the kind of incremental demand growth that we continue to see here, what is your sense on what numbers could we be looking at for this year or the next?
Well, I don't have insight into the exact numbers, but one thing about India is this. India is so important to the overall silver market, on the industrial side, on the jewelry side, and so forth. But it's really becoming very important to the investment side. And later on this year, we'll be putting out a report which examines silver investment in all aspects in India. And I'll be happy to share that with you, Manisha, when it comes out.
We will wait for that, Michael. Also, what's your sense on the global production and consumption numbers right now? I mean, we all understand that this is going to be yet another year that silver could be headed for a deficit.
We do believe there will be a deficit this year. We believe it will be higher than the 51.6 million ounces that we saw or 51.8 in 2021. 71.5 is what we're saying right now, but that could even be higher. Even though we're forecasting more supply of silver to the market, both from industrial scrap, but also from an increase in mine production, we believe that the deficit will be higher in 2022 than it was in 2021.
And is that the trend that you expect seeing in the coming years as well?
We do indeed, Manisha. We absolutely.
Michael, another thing, and we do understand that even as gold has been very volatile, silver tends to be even more volatile than that. What is the cost of production that you're looking at for silver right now?
In terms of the cost of production, you said?
That's right.
Well, we think that the cost of production with respect to on the mining side will be lower than it was last year. But the volatility, you raise an interesting point. It has shown exceptionally high volatility this year. Silver, we had a high of 26.94 and a low of 18.15 in July, and that's a $9 bandwidth. And we think that with silver being viewed as both a precious and an industrial metal, the combination of rising interest rate hikes and rising treasury yields and recession fears mean that silver has been particularly vulnerable to the professional investors' sell-off, and not so much on the retail investor side.
Fair point. When we talk about investments itself, Michael, where do you see that getting in most from? I mean, is it the physical part of it aspect or the ETF buying? What way are people really acquiring silver?
Well, it's a combination of both, but I can tell you quite frankly that the demand for the investment in bars and coins and so forth is really outstanding this year. You talk to any coin dealer or any of the 13 authorized purchasers at the U.S. Mint that sell these American Eagles to the consumers, it's off the charts. And as a result, the premiums are high, but consumers and investors are still paying for these bars and coins. It won't be a record year, but it'll be a very, very strong year in terms of overall demand. Our biggest challenge is producing enough coins at the U.S. Mint, the blanks. They're running 24/7 to try to get these American Eagles and other coins to the investor.
Also, Michael, when you look at geographical, distribution and sense of demand, of course, India is one of the bigger markets there. But what has been the growth when you look at silver buying across map?
Well, you look at the United States, you look at China, you look at parts of Europe and so forth. But India really is the story today. They are coming in droves, and then not only are they looking at the physical, you've got new exchange traded products on the market in India. So that's a country that we're really keeping an eye on. And like I said, well, I'm really looking forward to seeing our report later on this year.
Michael, another thing about silver clearly is the gold and silver ratio. And a lot of people, a lot of investors do really take a look at that as well. How relevant or how often do you do that?
I don't look at it that often. I'll be quite honest with you. I mean, there are certain investors who really pay a high premium on that figure. I don't look at it that much. It is important to some. It's not that important to others. But it's an interesting anecdote. I mean, there's a gold copper, there's a silver copper, there's the gold silver ratio. So there's many ratios out there. We were closing the gap earlier this year, and I think that bandwidth is growing even as we speak. So we hope we can reduce the ratio of silver to gold later this year.
Michael, also there's a big market when it comes to silver scrap as well, and also when it comes to silver hedging. How have those two numbers been to you?
Not so much on silver hedging, but on silver scrap, it's interesting. When the price gets higher, silver scrap is pretty much led by gold. If gold price is increasing at a certain point, people tend to scrap all their jewelry, all their metal at once. On the industrial side, we're going to see more scrap from EO, ethylene oxide, this year. So we're forecasting a slight increase in industrial scrap in 2022.
One final question then, Michael. What's your sense on prices? I mean, you've given me a range for this year then, and would you say we've seen the highs in this year already? And how are you looking at it, let's say, next 6 months, 12 months trajectory for silver prices then?
Well, we always have to remember, I should say, that silver is both an industrial and a precious metal. So on the industrial side, we're seeing strong demand. The price of silver has somewhat befuddled me this year because the fundamentals of the metal are good. The miners are doing well. It's just not reacting like it used to with respect to inflation and recession fears. But I think that's going to turn around. I do believe that our outlook on silver, 23.90 may be a little bit high, but quite frankly, it's going to be a good year. And we think 2023 and beyond is going to be even stronger for silver.
All right. And Michael, how much of the strength in US dollar do you think is weighing onto the commodity markets right now, including silver?
We think it's having a huge impact.
And,
Absolutely.
And ahead of the September interest rate meet, do you think yet another dent coming in for this sector?
That's an interesting question. I can't go that far into the future, but I do believe that once we get through this and once the inflation concerns are mitigated, we expect silver to boom further in 2022 and clearly into the future.
Point taken. Michael, thank you as always for joining us. Well, that's a view coming in from the Silver Institute. The silver industrial demand is expected to hit a record highs yet again in 2022. As far as the prices go, well, that seems to be in a construed band right now between 21.6 to 22.10. Of course, once we break this one, then is when we will see further gains. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. And that's all the time that we have on Commodity Champions. Thank you for watching.